few years ago, I decided that computer science and software development is not exciting enough, and I went to study industrial design. That happened after I visited Japan, and it looked like that entire country was just like made of different things using different technologies, something like the moon, outer space, and whatever. It just didn't seem like anything I've seen before, and it made me really want to understand how you could get to that. And it was both like the visual and both the materials they were using in their common life objects, which I never seen before, and just like touching them was so weird. And I just like wanted to go and understand these things. So after spending like 10 years in the software industry, I signed up for industrial design program, which I graduated. And the interesting thing is that during that program, I realized how much of an engineer I am like. Just the approach to life of, I want to be there, how do I get there, and just go figure that, that's engineering. It kind of doesn't matter if you do electronics, if you do software development, if you research materials to use and find out if they're conductive or cold or isolating or whatever. It doesn't matter if you're just trying to figure out how to make serial manufacturing of a certain thing you invented. It's just this approach to things, knowing that you can really do everything and everything was made by humans and you're at this point of life and you will always be in this point of life where you can figure out how. This is like very empowering for me because I thought that if I'm not a mechanical engineer, I probably shouldn't be like getting near these things because people studied like 4 years undergrad or whatever to figure out how to do that. They must have known all of these things I don't, and I just found out nobody knows anything. We can always figure it out. It's just like a matter of persistency and like wanting that and just like finding your direction, sticking to it, or not finding a direction and doing them all together, which is kind of what I am. I'm both a designer, I like people, I like parties, and I like software. And I feel like now that I'm 32, I can like just like sleep tight and know that I don't have to be this genius Einstein. It's this very specific thing. I like being an engineer that can do them all, both robots and electronics, and like blinking clothes for rave parties and like whatever it is, really. It's also interesting to be a woman in that world. In my high school major, computer science, there were like 8 girls and out of 44 boys, which is not that much. It's just to tell you that 15 years ago or 20 years ago, whenever it is I went to high school, things weren't much different. But I thought it was kind of fun. You can just like do whatever you feel like doing, and it doesn't really matter who surrounds you or what. You just go and find your way. I like that about engineering, and this is what I wish for you to happen. It's like very exciting to see you guys working on all these projects and just like walking around in nature with you with sensors or just moving robots or whatever it is. The world is open, and you don't have to be a real big genius in order to engineer things and like figure out how things work. This is really accessible to everybody today. This is what you should remember. That's it.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I forgot to ask that. Hi, sorry, I'm a bit excited. I'm not just like accustomed public speaker. This is like one of my first opportunities to speak to like 40 people, and I'm excited. Sorry.
You were great. Good job. I don't have a question, no, I just want to say that. Good job.
Can you explain your website?
Sure. So my website. Oh yeah, that is. You're supposed to like to do
Yeah.
I change the resolution of the screen? No? Not a good idea. It's all locked down. Yeah, well, how about,
Using that.
yeah. Oh. Better. Okay, so I'm going to be very frank to you about this. So I moved to New York in September, and I started looking for a job in these like software companies that perhaps have to do something with the maker world and DIY, like Shapeways and like Kickstarter and Etsy and all these. And then I found out that all my peers have these blogs, and they have Twitter accounts, and they have 4,000 followers, and like all of them are like very active in these social media things, and like they're blogging about everything and nothing. And I was like, oh, I don't have that. Well, how would I get a job? Like, it seems like everybody has something. So I've decided to put up a website with kind of the things I've did in the recent years. These are my projects, things that I did either for my house or just like an art thing, or some projects I had during school in my industrial design studies, or some tinkering electronics I've been doing recently in Hack Manhattan, which is one of the hacker spaces here. I can go through them and show them to you if you like. This is a really awesome one of my favorites. This is a project exploring materials. I found that there's this really cool thing, it's called Tyvek. It's kind of an artificial paper, the one that people use in UPS envelopes, you know, the white material. What's specific to it is that it's water resistant, but it does let moisture go through, and it's almost like untearable. So what I did with it, I was just like blowing with a heat gun on that thing, and it started bubbling because it's kind of made of plastic. And then I put an LED strip behind it, and I saw this thing. And I'm like, wow, this looks amazing. I have to do something with it. And it was just like at the back of my mind for a really long time. And then we had this lighting fixture class at school for like a whole semester, and we were supposed to design a lighting fixture. And I was like, I want to do something with this. So it developed to this thing. This is a standing lighting fixture, which is about like this high from the floor. And inside there's LED strips, and these tubes are covered with Tyvek, which is sewn on a sewing machine, which is all exciting altogether because I didn't know how to sew on a sewing machine before. So this is how it looks, and now I'm working on getting this like serially manufactured, but in small series. The thing is that engineering-wise, this is a very complicated thing. It contains a lot of materials together. It's both LEDs, this Tyvek thing. There's a structure inside. The plate you see here on the bottom, that's either metal or wood. So there's a whole bunch of different processes to do. So probably that thing won't be like in hundreds of thousands or millions to like tens tops. But this was very interesting because I got to figure out how to operate LED strips. I got to figure out how to manufacture these plates. Like, is it wood turning? Is it metal spinning? Like, how do you do this? I spent like months and months on the internet trying to learn about these processes, because if you thought that when you go study industrial design, they tell you all that, they don't. They're like, oh, here's the kit, good luck. This was one of them. This is a felting project I did. I just felt like it's like felting is nice. Just touching wool is nice. Winter in New York is cold. You feel like doing something warm. I was just doing a bunch of them. They were like very therapeutic, I would say. Nothing to do with engineering, but then also like the way that threads interlock in the process, that's interesting. Did you ever hear how Velcro was invented? Anybody knows? Awesome. Well, don't tell me. So this process is called biomimicry. It means that people figure out how nature works, and then they go and do something custom that works in the same way. So this guy was like walking in the field, and he had something sticking to his pants, some kind of plants, and he was like trying to rip them off, and he was ripping off fabric together with them. And then he looked closely how these spikes were built, and they were like these small hooks, and his clothes had loops. He was like, wow, Velcro. That's how Velcro was invented. So felting is kind of like that. The threads interlock, and I find that like a very interesting wondering that like I want to do something with. I'm still thinking about it. This is a joint creation of me and my husband. My husband likes to drag garbage home. He has this particular thing about it. When he finds interesting objects outside, he feels like it's necessary to bring them to where we live. And then it's up to me to figure out what exactly we're going to do with it. So we've got two mannequins that were like just like thrown out as if they were not human outside, and I was like, really? So they were turned into these kind of planters. These things are air plants. Their roots do not need soil, so they just like hang around in holes you make, and then just became art objects around our apartment. This thing is also interesting. I was always thinking, I feel like the most interesting objects today are created when you take technology or knowledge from one field and then you apply it in another field. And it's really like, I was thinking about upholstery and how things are being upholstered, and I thought, maybe if you can just like, instead of upholstering couches, what if you upholster a water bottle, how would that look? So I wanted to learn more about the process and the technology they used to do that, and to see if I can create some interesting visual effects or just like interesting technologies to use in other places. Because I feel like people from these different traditional professions, they don't really speak to each other, and I feel like engineers and designers are the ones that are connecting these worlds. It was very interesting to see and to realize how difficult it is, and also to realize I will never be an upholsterer. But it was cool. Oh, this is the other, this is the friend of the previous one. He was implanted some like huge LEDs inside. Unfortunately, it died prematurely because I didn't get enough ventilation, so the LED overheated. But I'm sure I can figure out like a technical solution how to get it ventilated and stuff. But like the effect was amazing. Who would have thought like lighting up these mannequins from inside would give such an interesting effect? This looks a bit lame, but this was like a moon I created for this party for some friends. They were trying to reproduce this 80s vibe that was available in some club in the 80s that only Yorkers knew, your parents probably do. And apparently there was something like that at that club, and they wanted to create a thing. So me and a friend, we were just like cutting out that thing out of a huge plank of wood with a jigsaw, having dust all over around the apartment, and then hooking up some LEDs to it. This picture is static, so it doesn't look very interesting, but we embedded like some 7 or 8 patterns into the object, and you can switch them with remote control. And this was my first electronics project. It's just like figuring out how to change the sequence of the LEDs with pressing a button. It took me like 2 days. It was super exciting and super interesting to find out that this is not that complicated. I have some more which I haven't uploaded just yet, but this is pretty much my website, and this is pretty much what I have been doing for the past couple of years. So thank you for suggesting I explain about this. Do you have any other questions?
Can you explain more about what industrial design is about?
Yeah. So design is actually, what does design mean? Design means that you think of a user, a human being, an animal, whoever it is, and you think of the need they have, and then you find how to fulfill that need with a physical object. That's design. So there's graphical design. All of us know what that is, roughly. So it's like designing 2D pictures or information and figuring out how to do that. What kind of rules apply to that? And there's industrial design. Industrial design is by far a more open thing. So industrial design is somebody's designing this. Who decided that it's going to have like these buttons here, and it's going to be made out of this material, and the hole is going to be here, and like when I switch the buttons, they should be spaced out in like in this way so that my fingers will be able to press the buttons and not press everything, like two of them simultaneously. Somebody thought that this should be the enclosure of this case. Somebody designs cars. Somebody designs trains. All of these are industrial design. The difference from craft is that when you design these things, you think of how they're going to be serially manufactured. So you need to be well familiar with the manufacturing processes. You need to know what's injection molding. You need to know how do people shape plastic. You need to know what's expensive, what's cheap, to do some cost calculations. And I don't know if anybody read this Steve Jobs biography book, but it's super interesting and it's super true. The reason it's super interesting and super true is that for all industrial designers, that guy was a role model. Not as a person with like bad mood that was often expressed to his employees, but just like as a thought. He was the one to integrate both the engineering process with the design, and that's what led to the great result in the book. Industrial designers usually not experts in anything. They just don't know how to do anything properly. Really. There's always going to be somebody who knows how to do something better. Whether it's a mechanical engineer, whether it's an electrical engineer, or manufacturing engineer, or somebody. But they are the people who can connect the dots. And that was the super interesting thing about it. They also teach you that it's not like with art, that you're born with this amazing talent to draw paintings. It's something that's being taught. Product development, how to get to this shape of a bottle, for instance. This is something that people do without having an idea that this is how it would look eventually. They start with a thought, oh, so yeah, we need a bottle. Why? I don't know. Just we need one. And they go through this process of development, and the way it works is they design tens and thousands of models of that bottle up until the moment they get to the specific one. And the best thing about industrial design is that it's an iterative process, and the more versions you do of something, the better it gets. So it's not that the specific talent that the baby is born is like, oh yeah, I'm 3 years old, I'm going to be an industrial designer. I feel like I knew what it means only when I was 57 to begin with. So it's really just connecting the dots about like different engineering perspectives and materials, and then doing an iterative process of developing products, which could be really anything from a mouse to a car. Learning the methods and learning the technologies around it. Anything else? Yeah.
Just wondering, when you were learning software, which language do you find to be the most comfortable, that you were the most comfortable with?
Well, back at the time, that was .NET. Nobody's using that anymore. I'll tell you what, when I was studying in school, we were taught Pascal. Pascal. It was so that boring that I was like, why would anybody want to do that ever? It didn't have any, like the best thing you could do with it was probably like, in 3 years, we got to the point that we were able to develop matrices and to show like numbers on the screen. I'm like, why would I want to do this? I feel like today, development is by far more attractive to people than it used to be. You had to be really like into algorithms to be in love with development, and today it's like a whole different thing.
Hang on.
Okay, guys, thank you.
Thank you.